I said it at the beginning, I'm like, we're getting fifth grades.
Hard to come inside after this day.
I wouldn't know, I barely have seen it.
Oh, I.
Okay, we're on hold.
Okay.
Ron's a couple of grades.
All right, I'm gonna call the April business meeting of the Port Edward Board of Education to order. Roll call, please.
Leo Thomasgard.
Yep.
Terry Hildebrandt, I am here. Dana Duncan.
Here.
John Dobbin.
Here.
Kathy McGrath.
Here.
Next item is take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, agenda is approved. Next is a report from student representatives and student recognition. Introduce
Welcome.
yourselves. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Nadia and I'm a senior.
And I'm Hennessy, and I'm also a senior.
Despite our unpredictable Wisconsin weather, all of our spring sports are underway. Our softball and baseball teams have played a handful of games so far, and we'll have a home game this Friday after school. Our golf team had a meet today at Golden Sands Golf Course, and our high school track and field team will compete at Rochelle tomorrow.
Outside of athletics, our high school math league competed last Thursday in their third meet of the year. 13 students traveled to Stevens Point and are now awaiting results of the competition. Our high school drama club has started making preparations for this year's variety show. Drama club members met this week and will begin making skits and planning performances for this variety show in May.
Lastly, we have 9 high school students in forensics who have qualified for this year's state competition. We have 3 groups of students who qualified in the play acting category and 1 student who qualified in the demonstrating category. Thanks for listening. We hope you have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
You're still alive. You did not grow an extra leg. It's all good. Don't tough on.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is President's Report. All the board members are in attendance. And our next board meeting is May 8th, 2024. And moving on to administrative reports. Elementary principal report, Principal Vina.
Good evening, everyone. If you've been following our Board of Education meetings, you know that this year the elementary school is doing a different character trait each month. And our character trait for the month of April is courage. We discuss courage each morning during our morning announcements and during morning meetings. And it's very cool to see our kids doing different activities with courage. And elementary students who exemplify this trait will be nominated by their teachers and receive an award at the end of the month. On March 22nd, I conducted a virtual meeting with CESA 5 to discuss end of the year collaboration amongst our professional staff here in the elementary. 2 curriculum specialists from CESA 5 will be coming to Ed Hoyer Elementary in late April and early May to observe our homeroom teachers and to give them feedback about what is going well and some areas for improvement. So getting some support with our remaining professional days that we have in our contract for some of our elementary teachers. 2 days ago on April 8th, as did much of North America and other places, our elementary students went outside and they observed the solar eclipse, which was very fun, a lot of oohs and ahs, and we did so safely. Teachers had pointers from the DPI on safe practices and learning activities, and we received viewing glasses from the Nakusa Public Library. They were provided free of charge. So that was a fun event on Monday afternoon. This week, April 8th through 12th, is Tornado and Severe Weather Awareness Week in Wisconsin. The elementary students are scheduled to participate in the statewide tornado drill tomorrow at 1:45 p.m. That's that same annual time, same annual day each year, 1:45 tomorrow. On Friday of this week, Mrs. Winters and Mrs. Vitello are scheduled to attend an all-day Act 20 training at CESA 5. And finally, the elementary school will be hosting our next Title I family event on Wednesday, April 24th. Local author and Port Edwards parent Liesl Detlefsen will be presenting one of her books to our students and families on April 24th. Following that, there will be an ice cream social. The event starts at 6 o'clock here in the elementary IMC Again, that's on April 24th. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. Next up is middle school, high school principal report. Principal Schroeder.
Good evening. Are you ready? You can set yourself up and put your. I was gonna put them before there because they're gonna go. You understand that, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry.
So I will bounce off the high school kids, student council kids. I brought with me three. There's a group of kids going next week to Madison for forensics for state competition. I want to give everybody a little bit of recognition here. This group that's going to perform for you is Dakota, Charlie, and Aubrey. They are all seniors. They're going to present elevator games. And our forensics coaches are Tammy Griffith and Rachel Frizzell, and they'll be taking them. And this is a senior group. Otherwise, we had a nice group here. We had Nevada Rice and Felicity Klaus, and they're doing The Best Escape. And Storm Ryer, Morgan Sturgis, and Maya Horbolt are doing 13 Ways to Screw Up on a College Interview. And also performing a demonstration speech, and I haven't seen it yet, is Caitlin LaCour is doing crocheting. So as she comes into school, I'm like, hey, did you, and it's amazing. Like she's crocheted some outfits, a hat. I'm like, I think I want to take lessons from you. So very entertaining. We've done this in the past, and they performed in my office before they went that day on a competition. And Aubrey, knowing and she's like, oh my God, Mom, we don't know, we're not gonna do good. And I laughed so hard, and they were prepared. So enjoy.
That was the best one. I think just so sure you guys know that.
Has competition ever gotten the best of you?
In this play, it is shown when three strangers meet in an elevator.
This is Elevator Games by Sean Elby.
I'm Charlie and I'm playing the stranger.
I'm Aubrey and I'm playing Scarlett Harrison.
I'm Dakota and I'm playing Barb Allen.
$27, please.
29.
Is that the Post?
No.
Is it the New York Times?
No.
Is it the...
No.
What does it start with?
What?
What does it start with?
First, that's bad grammar. Second, with what does what start?
The name of the paper?
It's the Weekly World News, all right?
Oh. What floor?
12?
No, what floor are you going to?
Excuse me?
What floor are you going to?
I'd say that's none of your business.
Oh, well, it's either 27 or 29 because those are the only two lit up.
Good for you. You narrowed it down. Now bottom my elevator business.
Well, if you don't want to play, that's fine. I guess some people don't have the competitive spirit.
What?
I'm just trying to start a pleasant conversation.
In an elevator, people don't talk in elevators.
Why not?
Because it's weird. If someone's crazy or boring, you can't get away.
And you?
Look, I'm in no mood, all right? I have a headache and I'm late. So could you just keep your games to yourself? That would be amazingly great.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
I have a sandwich made out of blank. Who can guess? Please, come on, someone guess.
Look,
Would you... Oh my gosh, something's wrong. Help, help. Isn't this an emergency button? I thought there's supposed to be a phone in these things. We seem to be stuck.
the walls.
What an excellent development.
Man, I hope that cable doesn't break.
The cable.
We're fine, see?
The jumping.
Stop that. This isn't a bouncy house. What's wrong?
I'm claustrophobic.
Then what are you doing in an elevator?
This isn't an elevator. It's a trash compactor death trap.
Then what are you doing in a trash compactor death trap?
I can't walk up 29 floors every day. I die.
Oh, right. You're on 29 and you don't know her, so you're on 27. True? False?
Who says that I don't know her?
It's fine, as long as it's moving. But as soon as it stops, the walls get smaller, smaller, and smaller until all the space for air seal up. The ones on the bottom are the last to go. Get down here so you can breathe, you idiots. Wait, don't. There's only enough air for one. Oh, precious air. I love you, air. Remember that one time when I breathed you?
I guess we're kind of sandwich.
Shut up!
Fine, you're right.
Man, I hope that cable doesn't break.
Come on, why can't we just have a common conversation? You're so afraid of human contact and competition. What did your parents do to you?
Don't go near the top. There's no oxygen up there.
Oh, come on. We all work in the same building. We're basically neighbors. I know. Let's get to know each other. We'll start with your name and then an interesting fact. And then I'll guess where you're from.
First, the walls press us into tiny little cubes. Then the cable snaps and we plunge to our deaths like eggs falling off a very high place for eggs.
That's an interesting fact. But you're supposed to start with your name, so what is it?
Look, would you not start with her? She's obviously...
Okay, we'll start with you.
Okay, if we tell you our names, will you just be quiet? Okay, I'm Scarlett Harrison. What's yours?
Barb Allen.
Okay, now tell us your name. We told you ours, now tell us yours. What are you doing?
You told me I'll just be quiet if you said your names, and you did, so...
Come on, tell us your name. Seriously.
Guess.
No, I'm not guessing. Tell me your name.
We'll all suffocate.
It begins with a C.
No, tell us right now. I'm not guessing.
Why? You wouldn't tell me your floor number, so I won't tell you my name.
Will you just tell us what floor you're on?
No, I'm not.
You have to say your floor and then your name. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. It's like a story.
This is the stupidest thing.
Will you just tell her your stupid floor number? You're not making this any easier by being stubborn.
Stubborn, I'd say principled.
ED words can't be people. They're states of being.
There's a principle here. Use in a sentence. There's a principle, and this is a game, and she made the rules. So therefore, I'm principled, or something.
Rules? What rules? Grammar has rules, which P.S. you're not following.
And who are you to talk? You couldn't even guess her sandwich.
I'll have you know, I was asphyxiating and being crushed into a tiny little cube. Plus, that's not part of the game, and you know it.
To be fair, you didn't answer.
I'm trying to help you here. Isn't there some sort of loyalty along with that? I did stop her from attacking you.
Bribing the judge won't help.
Bribing? I'm not bribing. I'm dizzy. I can't breathe.
Don't pull that.
Look at what she's doing to me. Air. Air.
You really should guess.
I'm defending you.
Swaying the judge won't help either.
I'm not swaying. I'm dying.
I mean, if you don't want to guess,
I can't breathe.
You just don't want to lose.
I'd really like you to guess.
Come on.
You'll feel better.
You know what? What if this elevator was powered by losing, and you losing caused it to crush all of us?
Turkey. I guess turkey.
Wrong.
You're going. You know what? You're a crazy monster person sent here to torment me as I die of suffocating. You're going down, monster. Let go of me. The monster must be destroyed.
Calm down. Calm down.
I have dessert too.
Stop. Calm down. We're going to sit tight in this elevator until it starts moving again. It's getting hot in here.
Yeah, I'm thirsty.
Mom, I have a soda. It's here. Diet Coke.
What? I hate diet, but I'm thirsting to death.
Or for me.
What? Who says that you get all that disgusting soda?
I'll have you know I'm a lady. A thirsty lady.
Don't make me say it. Let's split it.
Fine, but I get first sip.
Who says that you get the first sip? You're gonna drink it all and leave none for me.
Ha! Like you would do the same. Not on your life, buddy. And don't you even think about touching me. Because if you do, I will spill this soda all over all of us and none of us will get any of it.
Give me that. Look what you did!
Me? You attacked me, and I told you what I would do, and you did, so I did.
She set the rules. She followed them. Fair is fair.
Think, we would still have a delicious soda if you would have just said what floor you were going to.
Even though I did pretty much figure it out.
But you didn't, and now you don't have a soda, and you're losing. You're the ruiner of everything.
I quit.
Oh, you quit, really? You can't quit while you're losing. That's not fair.
Losing? I'm not losing, and if I quit while I'm losing, I lose anyway.
That doesn't make any sense. You know what? You're just a poor sport. Poor sport. Poor sport.
Okay, you're right. I may be a poor sport, but at least I'm not dumb like you. I didn't answer a question wrong.
Fine, I did answer a question wrong. I can admit that because I'm not a poor sport. So, what's a mystery sandwich? Just whisper it in my ear. It'll be our little secret.
I can't tell you. You have to guess. You have 2 more.
You know what? I think I figured you out. I bet you don't know what floor you're going to. Is that it? I bet you're an intern. Or it's your first day. Or you're just a moron. Either way, you don't know.
I know.
Prove it.
I don't have to.
Because you can't. Prove it. Prove it. Prove it.
Shut up!
Prove it.
Stop! The 31st floor. Okay, I work on the 31st floor.
I
You win nothing.
I love to win.
You know what? If you're such a winner, then tell me what kind of sandwich this is.
I don't care because I got you to say what floor you're going to. Ha ha ha.
You know what? I lied. I lied about it all. My name's not Scarlett Harrison, and I don't work on the 34th floor, and you're never going to find out any of that information. Hey, give me that back, that's cheating!
Scarlett Harrison. And I'm not cheating, I'm just proving facts.
That proves absolutely nothing. Maybe I mugged this Scarlett Harrison on the way here. Maybe I was following her to her desk to murder her and kill her, like I'm going to do with you.
Fine, do it. Murder me. Kill me. I don't care, because at least I'll die a winner.
You know what? If you're such a winner, then what is her name?
Ding. That's my floor. Excuse me.
Oh, wait, where are you going? What's your name? Hello?
Oh, this is your floor, the 29.
Thanks, but I'll just wait and see where you get off.
I think I'll walk. Oh, why? This is my favorite sandwich.
Hey, come back here!
Girls are gonna do great.
Thank you. We have
That was
to-
excellent, excellent.
Stay tuned, I'll let you know how they all do next week.
Yes,
Well
yes.
done.
And then I think all of them, Marissa, am I right?
What?
Are all of you in the variety show? Most of you? Those two? Okay, so May 24th, correct?
Will you do that same thing again? You should. Watch Central
Maybe, we'll
Indian.
see. We're still planning.
Yeah.
But there are some really good kids in there.
Okay.
Either way, so.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, girls.
Thank you,
Thank
ladies, that was
you.
terrific.
Thank you so much.
Terrific.
Kind of like when I watch that in my office, their personalities just came out too.
Absolutely.
Like I always tell Marissa, you pick the kids perfectly for their parts all the
Yeah,
time.
that's what I was saying. I thought they picked their parts perfectly.
Yes.
They perfectly cast. Yeah, Charlie is.
Yeah.
It's
So that was
exactly what I
like-
would have picked for them.
Lighthearted. Now I'll bring you some heavy stuff, actually. So we're almost done with our testing. A little bit this week and then next week. And to tie in with or just to talk about testing a little bit, Jen Moore and Ann Ashram-Brenner, one of our aides, or she's more than that, she's been around forever, did most of all the testing. And this was the first year that we were all online. Last year I heard horror stories from some of our, when I go to the principal meetings, like this didn't work, try this, do this. And like this year, we did amazing. Like there were little glitches, but they were so organized and on top of things. Jen met with Jen and I met or went with her, met with the teachers, and we had a lot of proctors. So we kept communication, and I just want to thank the aides too, because we have kids that need separate settings. So we pull an aide to do 2 kids while there's 20 in a classroom. We have to navigate subs. We have the core teachers doing most of it. And they have subs in and out, so it was amazing. And then I had chatted with her yesterday, was it? Mm-hmm. And she had said, we're so lucky that we have the aides we do. All the teachers were really good, and we expect that. They read their manuals, and they have everything up and running. But she said the aides were phenomenal too. That they had read everything, they were nervous about it, but they did a phenomenal job. So everything has went really smooth with the computers. ACT was the high stake one. That one went smoothly with kids. There's a couple makeup tests, but Ann Ashram-Brenner and Jen and the teachers, it was phenomenal. So I just want to give a shout out to that, so I don't forget in May, because we'll be on to other things already. And then the other thing I wanted to talk to or bring Miss Moore, Jim and I had talked about, this was the first year that we did an entire middle school, high school SLO, and it was tied to the best screener. And if you remember in fall, I came and we talked about that, and I gave you some graphs and datas and talked about it. So Jen is coming back around because we just did our last testing with the teachers, or I shouldn't say testing, but what do you want? Screening, and we got our results. And she was phenomenal about that, helping all the teachers write the SLO so it would improve our climate in our building. And we saw some really good results. So I think that's something we'll probably stick with. And she's going to give you a little report on that. So thank you.
Hello.
So,
When they asked me to do this, they did not tell me that I was going after forensics kids. So I will not be that exciting. I'm coming to you with data.
Are we gonna say no improv?
No. Maybe I'll throw a little dance in at the end, I don't know.
Can you guess the sandwich?
Great.
So this is
Thank
just a packet of information for you, because I know we've talked with you about the BEST before, but I think it's easier if you can actually see it. So, the BEST Screener, it's a universal screening platform that we use, and it looks at behaviors, emotional, and social traits. So of course we do a ton of, like Ms. Joda just said, we do a ton of state testing, so we know where the kids are as compared to academic standards. But one area I think we can all agree that we've seen changes with students is that social emotional piece, and I know there's some really big buzzwords. So a couple years ago in our district, we really had talked about what can we do. I think Lisa actually sent me the original grant application for the BEST. Marshfield Clinic was offering it. So yearly we do a grant, we get awarded, and we get to use this program. So what happens is our teachers screen the kids. The kids don't have an active part of this process whatsoever. They go to class, they act how they act. The parents do know they're getting screened, and they can opt their children out, but the kids aren't sitting for any questions. Basically, staff observes just like normal, and then at least 6 weeks into the year, or it has to be at least 6 weeks before we can screen. So they screen based on what they're seeing in the classrooms. We get back data. That data that we get back, there's 3 measures. There's what's called the P scale. The P scale is internalizing behavior. So these are kids that we might see, for example, daydreaming or just not engaging in everyday today activities. Crying is listed on there too. So these are more, internalizing is when we're thinking about kind of anxiety or depression or feelings like that. Those are also our kids that tend to not, they tend to fall through the cracks a little bit more because they're often not causing problems. They're kind of they're flying under their radar. So this has been a really good measure to notice what's going on with those kids. Then we also have the C scale. The C scale is more the conduct scale, so if you think of outward behavior. So those kids that you walk in a classroom and you notice right away, right? So we're never surprised by the kids that pop on the C scale. And then our G scale is kind of those 2 pieces mushed together. And I don't know exactly what that formula is, but we use our G score to look at kind of overall health of our district. So we do the screener right away, 6 weeks in fall, and then our next one was in February. So at the middle school, high school specifically, we've started to do BEST meetings in the past couple of years. We've really sat down and talked about kids that teachers have brought forward and said, hey, I'm struggling with this kid. Can we sit down and create some plans? So really, we're using this to encourage that identification. If you think about RTI, that response to intervention, when we have kids that are scoring really low on tests within the standards, they get the RTI process, which is where we're trying to fill in those gaps for education. This allows us to get some normative data about our kids in general, and then fill in gaps with social and emotional and behavioral pieces. So it's actually a little bit like that RTI process too. So any questions on that piece? I know you kind of heard this before, but wanted to give you a little bit of a refresher. So I'm going to go into some data from our fall window to our spring window. It's not an exact science because throughout the school year, all sorts of things happen. So for example, at the elementary level, in the fall, 177 kids were tested. Only 171 were tested in the spring. All the kids got tested, but we have kids go in and out throughout the year. So that's where those numbers can fluctuate. At the middle high school level, our special ed teachers often do an extra screening on kids. So it's usually a regular ed teacher or CT area teachers. Really any teacher can do the screening, but then the special education teachers usually double because they see different behaviors when they're pulled out in one-to-one or small group settings than we see in the big groups. And Mrs. McMillan, who has that at-risk study hall, she does an extra screening on all her kids too because she does see different behaviors. And it's interesting to compare the data between a regular ed teacher and, for example, a special ed or at-risk, because in the environments that they're in, changes the behavior sometimes, or sometimes the way a teacher teaches changes behavior. It's not right or wrong, but it's different, and it helps us understand what environments are kids successful, what's different between why are they succeeding here and not here. So there's a ton of data you can pull from this. And that's really, I would say, the best part of this is we've been able to meet groups of us and have some discussions that we wouldn't have normally had that really leads to insight. Where, for example, Marissa's got a totally different classroom than, say, Carla Leonard. And when you put them in a room together and they're talking about what's different, often we can start applying what we learned from this, but also what they're seeing in the classroom and create some really great plans for kids. So it's opened up that line of communication. So anyways, as we evaluate these health scores, I do want to point out again that some kids come in and some kids go out. So it's not this perfect setting for perfect data. You really have to go deeper into the data dive, which is kind of what we've done in some respects as well. So when I tell you these scores went up or down, it's not the whole picture, and I'll give you some deeper data as we kind of move through this. So for the elementary, in the fall, their G scale, so I think the fall was the first packet you had and then the spring was the second. But in the fall, that G scale, which is that overall arching health scale, they had a 78.5%. The higher the number, the better. We're always kind of shooting, they say around 90% is great, right? So that's always what we're kind of going for. So they had a 78.5%, and then in the spring, that G scale went down just a little bit to 77.84. C scale, again, is that outward behavior, right? So 80.28 health score, and then dropped a little bit to 79.47. Again, we're not seeing a drastic drop, so it's not super concerning. And then the P scale is that internalizing behavior. They started at an 82 and went down to a 78. So we're hoping, that it trends upwards. But again, looking at this data, it's not overly concerning. And when you do that deeper dive, you want to look at individual kids and how they moved. The middle school, so the middle and high school is where we did those targeted SLOs and really said, over the two buildings, we really want to focus on our best data. That's our goal. We want to improve the health of our kids. We want to improve their behaviors, their emotional health, and their social health. So at the middle school level, they started with that G scale. So that's, again, that overall score of an 89.9. And actually in the spring, it came up to a 92%. So we saw some improvement there. That C scale went from an 88 to a 90, and then the P scale went from an 85 to an 86. So some improvement across the board, which we're really happy to see. And, I think that comes from that effort of the SLO where everybody was focused on this, and we kind of see some more growth. But again, the numbers can be misleading because some kids are getting screened twice and there's pieces like that. The high school, 87%. And this was interesting. So the G scale was at 87% at the high school, and it dropped to an 85. But both the C scale and the P scale improved. When I did some deeper data dives, it's because we had some kids that the yellow and red categories on your sheets, those are the categories where the kids need that intervention. And it looks like we had some more like yellow kids move into the red. And so I think that's weighted a little bit differently. Any questions on those pieces?
Color scales are relative norms regarding more troubled versus less troubled.
Yes. So
Okay.
they come from
red is poor, green is better.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Red means that they need intensive support is the label for that. Yellow is strategic support. And then blue is emerging behaviors, which means we're starting to see some things. We're not at a panic point by any means, but hey, kind of watch this kid, especially if they've always been green and all of a sudden they start sliding. That's when you can kind of get tipped off to what's changed, what's going on, right? And then green is really, these are core behaviors. These are kids that are, well adjusted and they're doing well. Doesn't mean they can't move based on life events, but those are the kids that are doing real well right now. And the red or yellow label isn't like this is a bad kid, it's not that at all. This is a kid that needs intervention and help because they're missing, just like gaps in their education, it's gaps kind of in, sometimes the social piece. I think during COVID, we can all agree that kids miss something socially, right? And so sometimes it's filling in gaps there. What happens then is, I put in an example of a student screening. So if you want to flip to the page where it's got yes, the one that carries on. So the information's redacted on there, so you can't tell who it is, but it's a female 8th grader. And when you look at that, this is a screening that was done by one of our teachers for, like I said, an 8th grader, and I just gotta flip to it so I know what on earth I'm talking about. But this is a student who I believe popped red in all categories. So P scale, C scale, G scale. This student is one we look at and go, okay, we need some help. When this happens, when they're all red, this is a surprise to no one on this class. They go, yep, we knew this. The great thing about the best is often we go, we know this, but we're seeing this, but we're trying things in classrooms, right? Our teachers are trained to curb behaviors. But when kids are popping like this is something where we're going, what we're doing isn't working and we're not quite sure where to go. So what you can see is on the C scale, it's going to give all sorts of the constructs is the word we use. So attention seeking, disruptive, disobedient, hyperactive. You guys know what those things look like, but it'll kind of quantify us. And if you look on the C scale, that laziness is the one that popped the most for this kid. I want to mention laziness is a very negative term. It's the construct because we all know what that looks like, but again, it's not meant to place a value on a kid or to say that the child is lazy, but that's just the terminology we use. So I know people get nervous about that term.
Things like time on task in class?
Correct.
Okay.
And then if you look at the P scale, preoccupation was the one that popped the highest. We can click into each of these and actually within the document, it'll tell you here are the strategies that are best for this kid. And you can break them down by P scale, by C scale, or the G scale, which says, it mushes it together and says, here's what you should do with this kid. So on your next 2 sheets, I just wanted to show you kind of what we can see within the program. There's one for laziness and one for preoccupation. Really, both of these are like larger documents where then it breaks down descriptive feedback. What does that really look like with a kid? Because believe it or not, there is a right way and a wrong way to do descriptive feedback. There's even a right and wrong time to do descriptive feedback, right? We know when a kid's doing the behavior that we want to see, we need to give that descriptive behavior immediately, not like 10 minutes later, because that's when we know those kids learn. It'll even start to lay out, you want to give descriptive feedback every time a behavior happens for about the first maybe week to 10 days. And then you want to do it like every other time. So it's teaching our teachers how to really do these strategies. It takes the guesswork out of it. So we know, okay, this is how you apply it. So that's one thing that's been really great for us to meet in groups and say, okay, well, we do descriptive feedback, but clearly we're doing it wrong because, you know, we're in the 3rd week and we're still just on this kid. And that point, it doesn't solidify or kind of cement that behavior in a kid's head. So there's really a strategy to this that has been researched by Dr. Hartwig and his team who know much more about behaviors and the psychology than we do. And then, like I said, so it's got several things you can do for laziness in school. And then preoccupation is another one. And it says, again, descriptive feedback, that's one that can be used in both. We see a lot of praise is one. And again, we all know what praise is, but there's a really specific process for it. So that's one that we see pop with almost every kid. But things like, what does shaping look like? What is a discrete trial? And so what happens is, so say for example, we met on this kid who we come together and we say, okay, this is a kid who needs our help. What are the strategies we want to use? And from there, the group goes, yep, we're all going to do this. And even if all of that kid's teachers aren't at the meeting, I send out an email that says, here's what we're doing. Can everyone please jump on board and make a concerted effort to do this with this child for oftentimes we start out with a couple of weeks and then I'll kind of either send emails or meet and say, how's it going? Do we need to tweak anything? For the purposes of the SLO, what we did is pulled the data for any kids that kind of popped for P scale, G scale, C scale, and said, here's kind of our list of kids that we know needs help, right? And what we did is we identified several sets of kids and multiple staff wrote those kids into their SLOs. So for example, student A, what was Dakota's name? Barb. We'll use Barb because we don't have any Barbs in school right now. But there might be 3 teachers that are working specifically on student A in their SLO. And at first teachers were like, well, isn't that kind of cheating? And we said, no, we want more people to use the same strategy so that kid has that consistency across the board. And that's when we see major growth. So this is the biggest we've done it, where we did it with SLOs. We had everybody working on a couple universal strategies, like descriptive praise is a big one, where we said we're all across the board going to give an effort to do descriptive praise. And then these 3 staff members are working on these 2 kids. These 3 staff members are working on these 2 kids. So then we could, and again, it's all in service to help those kids, right? So at the middle school level, most teachers focused on P scale or internalizing behaviors. So and 2 teachers looked at the C scale. So for the P scale, 8 students were selected from grades 6 through 8 to work on those internalizing behaviors and try to improve their health of those internalizing behaviors. So one of the students unenrolled during the 6 weeks, and we did do this for 6 weeks, just like you do with RTI. That's really best practice. Of the 7 students that were left, 5 of those students, or 71% of the students, did improve health scores, and they moved up at least 1 category. I will say we always have outliers where the strategies, the ones we picked might not work. We might try some new ones. That's when we come back together and say, what are you guys seeing? And sometimes from their reactions, we can glean some learning there and change the strategy. If we ever really hit a wall where we all go, nobody has an idea, we don't know how to help this kid, then we call Dr. Hartwig.
You do.
Yes. I call Dr. Hartwig, and he says, okay, tell me everything you know, and he can look at the data. Yes, because he's amazing.
It's a magician.
He looks at the data and he knows things that you don't tell him. Okay, does this kid he'll say divorced parents and they don't get a lot of sleep and blah, blah, blah. Strange things that you can't tell just from looking at the data, but he's done it so much that he can really start to predict this is what this child's life looks like. And I don't know how many times we've sat there and it's strange. It's strange, but
Like
he's
a good pediatrician listening to an hysterical mother on the phone at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, I mean, he definitely has done this enough time where he's phenomenal. So when we run into a wall, and he's great, he and his team will jump on with us right away and say, okay, how can we help? So that's been, a really great part of the grant too. 2 of the students did not change categories. They didn't drop, but they didn't get better either. And so again, that's where we look to Dr. Hartwig. 3 students were focused on for the C scale behaviors, those outward behaviors. All 3 moved up a category, which is great. At the high school, 8 students were selected to focus on the P scales, or those internalizing scales. Of those 8, 1 moved out of district and 1 was gone too many days for valid data collection. So of those 6 left, 5 did improve, 1 stayed the same. 1 student was worked on for C scale or externalizing behaviors. After the 6 weeks, that student did have a healthier score and did move up in a category. So we really did have a lot of success with this plan. Big takeaways for us. We know that if we can get on the same page and use those universal strategies as a staff, we're going to see continued improvement. And we know when we all can get on the same page and focus on specific kids with those strategies that are really targeted for their specific needs, that we do really see some great growth. So that's what I have. Do you have any questions?
When a student, you said the student might get screened twice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have 2 reports, or do you combine those 2 into like 1 report?
So it's
student?
2 reports. There's 2 separate reports for the screening, but if you click on the kid, it kind of mushes all of it together and will give you, here's what's best for that kid. The other really great thing is we can even look back. So we've been doing this enough years where a lot of these kids, we have data from elementary school and you could see trends. So that's been really interesting too, to see how kids have grown or changed. So it houses all that data, but yes, it will give kind of an overarching, here's what's best for this child.
We hear a lot of noise in the media about mental health and students experiencing stress and the lack of mental health interventions. This strikes me as being it's not called that as such, but it certainly strikes to the emotional and mental well-being of a kid who's frustrated and doesn't even understand why. And with this type of intervention, they can.
Absolutely.
So two things, we hope we can keep getting a grant, because it's carried us this far. And I guess the second thing, those numbers might sound small, but I think they'll agree. If it's 1 or 2 kids in a class of 20 and it affects the classroom dynamics and the education and the halls or whatever, it's worth it. That might sound like small numbers, but it impacted a lot.
You have one troubled kid, you have one bad actor,
Yeah.
the whole apple cart.
And it's
goes
not to say that
upset.
we didn't use some of those procedures with other kids too. Like I've taught, how long have I been in education? And I used to say, Leo, you didn't bring your pencil and your computer today? Well, it's flipped us, and now I walk by classrooms and a lot of teachers are saying, thank you for bringing your computer today and your pencils. And I'm like, because it's focusing on the positive rather than calling Leo out, So those are the things you hear going on in the classrooms, so.
Sometimes he needs to be called out though.
Oh, yeah. Well, we know that.
We're not ignoring.
Did you bring your computer and pencil today, Dana? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Ms.
Yeah.
Warren.
All
Taking
good
notes, you just can't
information.
keep it.
Excellent.
And how many years has Dr., I know he's been here for quite a long time. Have you worked with him?
7 years.
Is it 7? I was
Already.
trying to
It's a lot.
remember.
Wow.
I did it as a teacher.
10 years.
Yeah. I screened as a teacher.
Oh, gosh.
So, wow.
But this is, like, this year has been intense, like these meetings and everything have been great.
Focused.
Yeah, oh, yes.
In a good way.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Extremely helpful.
I mean, before we used to get the information in packets or on the computer, but this year we like dove into it with each other. That's, I think, what was so helpful.
Yeah, if you can just improve one student, but sure, you're improving more than that, but it's well worth it.
Good job.
Well done. Very well done.
All right, moving on to district administrator report. Jim?
Sure. This, of course, is our first board meeting since last Tuesday night, where the village and the school district resoundingly passed both of our referendum questions. I'd like to publicly thank everyone in the district, all stakeholders, employees, everyone who spread the word to get the positive support to pass our referendum last Tuesday night. And now the work starts. We are very excited. We are kind of doing 2 tracks of work right now. We're working closely with Baird to work through the details of funding, and what that looks like, and the steps we need to take. We had a meeting with Debbie on Monday morning, and on Monday afternoon, Frank Neve and myself, Lisa, we met with CISA 10 to develop a schedule of projects for building and grounds that we're going to be doing over the next 3 calendar years. So we have our schedule set for building and grounds. Tonight, I would like to welcome Debbie Brunette from Baird, who we all know, who helped guide us on our referendum process. She's going to be speaking to the board about more of the details related to the finances related to the referendum. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good to see you again. Kathy said it's like you're one of us. I said, I am. I like to be. So, and it's funny, I often, when I come and present, I'm following student recognitions and such. So I also notice who I follow. The best one was when I followed an insurance agent.
There you go.
But this is good stuff tonight. So congratulations. A lot of effort was put into communicating so that districts could make, the stakeholders could make an educated vote. And it really showed that they were in support of both continuing your operational referendum and the facility needs and funding them in order to keep your building servicing students for years to come. So my job tonight is to get you up to speed on work we've been doing in the background in order to prepare for the debt issuance so you can pay for the projects, and then to talk about next steps, both in what we'll be doing on our end within the administrative office, but how you get to be involved as well. So, we always start with the interest rate environment. When we were planning for your referendum, we were using 5.5% for the interest rate. And that was, as we talked about in those meetings, we always want to come back or give ourselves a planning estimate so that when we come back, we can hopefully meet and if not do better than that target. And so I'm bringing this up tonight because you may have heard that the Fed rate stayed steady. And most were latching onto that. And The two important takeaways is that the municipal rate doesn't follow that Fed rate specifically. The Fed rate is the rate that banks can loan money between one another. Our municipal rate is more closely tied to the sentiment of the market around where inflation may go. So if you can imagine, these investors, life insurance companies, larger institutions are going to be loaning you this money, and it's going to be loaned for over 20 years. And so they are looking into the future. They don't want to loan you dollars at 3% today if they think inflation is going to be 5 or 6. So that's why you can see the fluctuations in that upper right-hand corner that are occurring even when we hear that the Fed rate is staying the same. So having said that, the market is still favorable where we are. I'll show you the interest rate. Right now, we're still assuming 30 basis points over, and the estimate I'll bring to you in a minute is at a 466 instead of a 550. So that means that we can save interest costs over the life of the loan, which is great. So when we move from the referendum plan into what you're seeing tonight, we have 4 goals. The first is we want to think of that mill rate impact that we communicated during the referendum, and we want to meet it or do better. And that's conservative assumptions and planning in the pre-process. As we shift into the financing, our 3 additional goals, we're trying to minimize the interest costs. So over the life of the loan, how can we repay it to pay back the lowest amount of interest as it fits with your overall plan? The second is to minimize interest rate risk. So we know what interest rates are today. If we borrow today, we can lock in. We don't know what they'll be 3 months from now or 3 years from now. So in your case, with your dollar amount and the project timing, we're going to lock in as soon as we can so that we know what our rate is and can have the dollars in order to pay for the projects. And then the last is to maximize interest investment earnings. So when the debt is issued, it's going to be put into an investment account, and it will generate interest, and you'll get to retain that interest in your project account, and it can be used towards your projects. So if anything came in over budget, it could be used toward that. It could be used toward additional projects that make sense in the scope of the referendum. And if at the end you still have extra, it can be used to repay debt. But we want to get that right now, short-term interest rates are actually higher than the long-term rates we've been borrowing. And so you'll be in a positive arbitrage situation from the get-go, as we are in current markets. Yes?
What's about the base on that? What's the
spread?
difference? Yeah.
Yeah, so we're using a 466 as our long-term planning estimate right now, which is about 30 basis points high. So if we were to borrow today, we'd be at about a 430, 435. And I know the LGIP right now is over 5%. So, and you'll likely use PMA for your investments as you
Yes,
currently
correct.
have. So 0.5%. It's going to do some quick math. Now keep in mind, we aren't going to keep it for the full, you'll be paying out some. So that's one of the steps is Lisa will take the sample spend down schedule that CISA has provided, and she'll provide it to PMA. And then they'll make sure to invest the funds. They're secure, they're collateralized. We as a government entity, a school district, are restricted as to how we can invest in order to protect the dollars. And so they'll invest in a way to maximize those earnings for you. Okay, so for the structure itself, you will get a rating. You do not have a rating right now. The ratings get attached to the bond issuance, and because you're currently debt-free, you don't have a rating. But our analysts have run sample scorecards. There are 2 main rating agencies for school districts, S&P and Moody's. And so they've run some sample scorecards, and the estimate is that you could fall in an A1 category, which is very good for a school district, especially this size in Wisconsin, in this area of the state. And so we'll go through a rating process. We'll aim for the A1. If we can get to a AA3, even better. The reason why we're trying for that good rating is the better the rating, the lower the interest rate. Just like a home mortgage with a credit score. So the loan that we're proposing is a 20-year issuance, and that's the maximum that you can borrow in a single maturity for municipal debt. And so we are looking to utilize all 20 years, and that's so we can spread out the cost over 20 years. And if you imagine, these renovations are going to last a lot longer than 20 years. Oftentimes we get asked, well, why don't we do 30? And the answer is because unless we do multiples, 20 years is the maximum. We could do two 20s and get to 21, for instance, but then we're subject to interest rate risk and you lose the investment earnings. So these are considered promissory notes. That's the technical term. General obligation promissory notes, and the general obligation means that you get to levy in order to repay it. And you, in the federal world, it's unlimited levy authority, meaning you levy what's needed in order to repay it. You'll levy based on what is scheduled, and if you your levy comes in at a point where you can levy early and repay, you have that option, and then you would just save interest costs, just like repaying any other loan or financing that you have. And as we talked about in the referendum meetings, if interest rates come down in the future, we sure can refinance. Okay. Last couple of things, we will be asking local banks if they want to be involved. I know that can be important for boards, and so our desk does reach out to the local banks and ask if they would like to purchase portions of it. And that will be near the sale date, and we get the banks and the names and make sure that they're included. Am I explaining this okay so far? Mm-hmm. Okay, I feel like I'm going quick. So here's a sample of the financing plan. Now you've seen a plan like this early on. We don't use this much detail during the referendum communications because it's often too much for the general stakeholder. But it is important. There are a few important things that as board members we want you specifically to know. So we will be financing the $7.3 million that was approved via the referendum. We will repay it over 20 years. In the first 4 years of the referendum, we have assumed 2% property value growth. And so the levy will increase by 2% until it levels out at about $600,000. So once we get to that fifth year, we call that level debt service. The negative that you see in the next column, that's the state aid impact. That's you're estimated to receive to help offset that levy. So your gross levy will be $600,000. The state will cover about a third of it because of how you are funded in the formula, which means the net impact to your levy will be around that $380, $390. And that's a great message for the community. Now on the revenue limit worksheet, the aid for this will get lumped up with all of your other equalization aid. It won't be parsed out separate. But for you, the more you spend, and debt is considered an expenditure, the more aid you receive. The state
Which keeps the local mill rate.
Correct.
Very good.
Correct. So in our planning estimate, we were estimating a maximum impact of $1.43 as we communicated in all the materials. Current estimate in this plan shows $1.32. So a reduction of 11 cents on the mill rate and a net interest reduction. So you're avoiding interest of about $726,000 over the life of the loan compared to what we originally estimated. And if we can lock in rates even lower, that number will get bigger, avoiding more interest because of the lower rate. So all good news as we come into this. Jim, did I miss anything? Looks like you were going to say something.
No.
No, okay.
I'm going through my mind everything we talked about on Monday, and you're hitting everything.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty good.
Good. Good. So with that, our timeline. So you can see there are many steps in this timeline, and after this conversation tonight, we'll actually draft a more detailed one that will get sent over to Lisa and Jim, and they'll have it so that they can know the details. A lot happens between now and when we close on the issue. Tonight really started the process. We will be doing some work in the background, preparing for your May 8th meeting. At the May 8th meeting, you'll see what we call a parameters resolution. And what that will outline is the maximum interest rate that the board will accept for the loan, and it will designate Jim and Lisa as signers. And so then, when it comes to the sale date, our desk will go out, market the bonds, involve the local banks, and we'll close, and if it meets all the criteria that's outlined in that parameters resolution as approved, then Jim or Lisa, it won't be both, can sign and say, yes, we're locking this in and move forward. And then about 6 weeks after that, and so you'll get the dollars in your account. And the reason why right now the dates are flexible in here is we always want to make sure we talk with the board first and then go back and lock in our timeline. So there will be more specific dates as the detailed timeline gets distributed. So you will have your dollars in June. We're hoping to close yet in this fiscal year, which helps Lisa kind of close it out. But also the CISA draw schedule, when they expect to tackle projects, and then invoice already has some invoices coming then. So we we're really trying to get you the dollars as quickly as possible so you're ready to hit the ground running. What kind of questions come to your mind as I walk through this for you tonight?
Be thorough. Have you used these interchangeably, and I'm a little confused. Are these issued as municipal bonds, or are they a note?
Technically, they will be a municipal note.
Same tax implications as a municipal bond?
Correct.
Okay.
Good question.
Leave it to the lawyer.
It used to be municipal notes were 10 years or less, and municipal bonds were more than 10 years. But recent legislation passed that that has 20-year notes as well. So these will be considered notes.
This debt service could conceivably be sold to a number of different vendors.
Correct, yeah, so that was something I didn't know until I started working for Baird. I just assumed that when you were loaned $7.3 million, that one institution was loaning you those funds.
Right.
Our sales team, it says, Debbie, you need to finish up. So when municipal debt is sold, you could have multiple investors, and they might purchase just the 43-44 maturity. They might purchase a portion of it. Life insurance companies tend to like the longer end for their investment portfolio. Could be a municipal bond portfolio, but it will likely be purchased by multiple. And then there's the depository trust company, which is the overseeing entity that then the payments get routed to in order to then be distributed.
And some of those vendors could in fact be local,
Correct?
if they choose to.
Correct.
Some of them would likely be, depending on which company, somebody like AIG could buy them, package them with other bonds, and sell them as a derivative.
They could.
Thank you.
Debbie, sounds like you're wrapping up, but there is a power strip if you need one. Sorry to tell you a little bit. You need to plug in.
I think it's okay. That was my last slide.
Okay.
I can stay for as long as you want.
Very
So
grateful.
just-
Debbie does
Very
amazing. She's been a wealth of knowledge, and
Yes.
this is a new process for us all, and I can't thank her enough for the guidance.
We work with school districts, municipalities, all kinds of public agencies.
Correct. Technical college districts, counties.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Take care.
We get to see one another next month too.
Good.
So I'll see you then.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll see you in a
Perfect.
moment.
On the agenda is questions and comments from people in attendance. Did anyone sign up to speak? I don't believe so.
I was right there, I could have grabbed
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
No, no one did.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Number 6, consider approval of minutes of a past meeting on March 13th.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye, carried.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Next, consider approval of financial reports. Any gifts?
No,
No
not
gifts.
tonight.
All right, seek a motion to approve financial.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? All right, roll call.
Leo.
Aye.
Carrie, aye. Dana.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Kathy.
Aye.
Financial reports are approved. No unfinished business tonight. So new business, receive election results and administer oath of office. Election results.
So as for Mr. Dobbin, we had 547 votes for Mr. Dobbin's
All right.
position. There was no write-ins, so it was a very overwhelming victory for Mr. Dobbin.
Congratulations.
You ready for your oath?
Oh,
I broke it down.
yeah, break it down.
Okay. I state your name,
I, John Dobbin,
who has been duly elected or appointed to
who has been duly elected or appointed to
the Board of Education of the Port Edwards School District,
Board of Education of the Port Edwards School District,
but have not yet entered
but have not entered
upon the duties thereof,
upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support
swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully
and will faithfully
discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
and discharge the duties of the said office to the best of my ability.
There you go.
Thank you.
No controversy in that.
I've taken that oath or the one for the village dozen or more times, and I never thought, I always thought it was silly that I had to uphold the state and US constitutions until I did.
Yeah.
And right now, it gets more and more likely that stuff like that is going to happen because you're gonna have to deal with First Amendment issues.
Yes.
All right, next, consider approval of recognizing PEA for the purpose of collective bargaining.
We want to welcome Port Edwards Education Association leaders, Ms. Moore and Mrs. Rabishki. As I mentioned in my memo, they're going to be speaking to the board tonight about circumstances surrounding PIA and the recertification. And they will be, again, presenting some of those details to our board tonight.
Good evening. As you know, since the enactment of Act 10, unions go through a certification process each year to affirm whether the teaching staff of the district as a whole agree to have the union collective bargain. The first part of this is a vote by all district teaching staff through the Wisconsin Employment Relations Commission, or WORK. Last year, our vote came out with a majority in favor of the union representation and bargaining. Once that vote happens, then the official certification process occurs, which is a fee and some paperwork. And then that gets filed with the WERC. This process is done by a regional WEAC office. Unfortunately, in the fall, we were alerted that due to a clerical error at WEAC, our paperwork did not get filed. After an investigation from WEAC and some work that they put in with contacting the WERC and working with the WERC, we were told there was nothing else that could be done to fix the error and that for this year we will not be certified. I have a letter from the field services manager at WEAC that explains the error a little bit more and shows that it's on the end of WEAC. So I'll copy of that for you so you can see that.
What is the timeline for the recertification? The vote happens in the fall, right after school starts?
Yes, but because we'd had the off year where for the very first time ever that we did not recertify 2 years ago, we actually did it in the spring of that year. So we had done it prior to the school year starting.
Okay.
So last spring, because we had to do a mail-in, which we had, actually I think our number was higher in yeses than it had been even the previous time that we had recertified. So
as a result of this follow-up, will this next vote have to be a mail-in now as well?
Correct, yes, and we'll be able to do that right away in the fall.
Oh, okay, so that'll be coming in September, not next month.
Correct, and that would be then for next spring.
Okay.
Yep, so we should be, we would do the mail-in in September, hopefully be recertified again right away for next year. But it's just affecting this year right now.
Okay.
Am I reading this correctly, that we do not have to necessarily hold fast, we could informally negotiate with the union?
Correct. And there are a number of districts that do that on annual basis. They choose not to because it's essentially a $200 filing fee for each union for the certification process. So some districts, unions decide they just have an agreement with their board, so that they don't have to pay the $200 essentially. So there are several in Wisconsin that this happens to.
I have a history with doing that.
Yeah. So that's what we're coming to you tonight to ask that the school board still meet and confer with us and bargain in good faith. We feel that we had that majority of staff behind us in the certification vote, and we would have been certified if not for this clerical error that was not our fault at all. And we feel that the board including us in the process would show our staff that the board recognizes and supports the outcome of that original vote and goes a long way in showing our staff that we're all part of the same team. So it's kind of where we're at with it.
Does this require a motion?
I believe it does.
Yes. It would.
I will move such action.
Second.
Go ahead, David.
Move for division for vote. Since it's involving a significant amount of money, like each.
Oh, okay. So there's a motion on the floor and then seconded, so take a vote by
individual
roll call vote.
Any other discussion on it? All right, do roll call then.
Leo?
Aye.
Carrie? Aye. Dana?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That is truly unfortunate.
Yes.
I'm just.
Yes, it was a lot of stress.
I don't even
It's been very stressful.
As if Act 10 wasn't bad enough over the last decade.
And
now
our
this.
Our WEAC rep has been amazing. He came with all the receipts of everything he did
Larry Holmes.
Yes, to say, don't forget about Port Edwards. Don't forget about Port Edwards. So many emails that he had sent that basically got ignored. So.
And I'll be talking to Peggy Wirtz also.
Well, this is in that category of mistakes, but then that really don't matter. So,
Due to the grace of the board.
Yeah.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, but still, it's just kind of,
Next item of business, designate board representative to CISA 5 annual representative convention.
Where's it at?
It's always at,
important.
Portage.
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 Because one year it was at the meet, I thought.
Yeah, 1 year they had it
Yeah.
at the meeting, but normally it's Portage.
Do you wanna go, John?
I would
Yeah.
nominate John Dow.
Does anybody else?
I can do it.
I've never. I did go.
I used to do it.
I went down last couple
Yeah,
years to
yeah,
Portage,
yeah.
yeah. So one night or 3 hour event, 2
Carrie.
hours.
Carrie made a you nominate him?
Yeah, I did.
I second it.
Alright, there's been a motion and a second. Discussion,
Make the vote quick before he changes his mind.
Yay, John.
all those in favor of the motion? Say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Big decision.
Alright, motion carried. Next item is consider approval of 24-25 teaching contract.
I approve it and I'm so happy. We're
is
former
too.
kindergartners.
He came in to sign the contract and he dug,
Not to say,
not sign
just
his
to meet.
contract,
Just
meet with Lisa,
Okay.
business stuff. And he dug out an old Port Edward sweatshirt. And he came in and he was like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I gave him I'm like, welcome aboard. And his name on the back, he is ready.
There's been a motion and a second.
Who was second, Dana?
Dana, second,
Yeah.
yeah. All those
Didn't
in
wanna lose
favor?
that, so.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next is consider approval of assistant baseball coach Justin Beck.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Next, consider request for post-employment benefits. Make the
A motion to approve
I move,
Yes.
requested.
I make the motion.
Second.
Approve Donna's request.
And motion second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Alright. Motion carried. Next is opportunity for individual board member comment. Start with Kathy.
I am just so proud of our students and of all of our staff. I just think we are very fortunate with the people that we have in the classroom and the aides, the custodians, the kitchen help, I mean, everyone. And very, very proud of this district.
Amen.
Dana.
I'm very pleased by the outcome of the referendum. In talking with some people around the state over the last week, it was not unanimous by any means around the state as far as people willing to fork out money for education. But
Lowest percentage since 2010.
Wasn't it 60-some%?
61%.
Yeah. And but again, I stress this to people I've talked to in the community. This school district really is the centerpiece of this village. If you don't have the school and function of the school and the spirit, the camaraderie, the athletics, the social, the village would basically cease to exist as a viable entity. And so, and I'm glad people saw it that way. So.
Absolutely.
What was the, I didn't look to see what the final numbers, what was the final vote? Do you have the numbers?
Give me 1 second and I can
The
have them exact.
operational-
It's like 450 to.
It was in that email I sent
It was?
last Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah, but it was it passed 64 to 36, 64%, and the capital passed 58% to 42%. And the
Anything
numbers
over
are
55% is a landslide.
absolutely, they're both
Yes.
considered landslides. They were two of the highest rated referendums in the state as far as It was almost 2-to-1 for the operational.
Actual numbers, question 1, 450 yes, 254 no. Question 2, 410 yes, no, 292.
And I think Leo pointed out in one of our conversations that 9 out of the 10 voting areas passed.
Right.
You know, there was only one that did not pass, 1 out of the 10 regions. If you have 5 voting regions per, and 2 questions, there are 10 ways to vote, right? 10 voting.
10 ballot questions.
10 ballot questions, thank you, 9 out of the 10.
One of them in the town of Seneca lost by
3 votes,
I think.
3 or 4 votes, yes.
Oh,
But
you're saying,
yeah, a very
yeah,
small.
okay.
Yeah,
42 to 39 or something.
it was by 3, so it's very,
Well, the further out you get, the less
Well.
interested they are. I would assume.
typically.
I'm assuming that
We'll also,
the immediate village probably had the highest percentage. I-
Oh, yeah,
It did,
that was
Village
the one
did.
we were like
Put it-
waiting for that, you know,
Once that
on
came
Tuesday
in.
night, I'm like,
Yeah.
because it started out with like town of Seneca or town of, and it was
They were
like,
close.
And that was
and
very
it was, it
39
wasn't
to
like big, but it was,
36.
and it was like, yes.
Yeah,
But then it was like waiting for that village one, and then it was like, wow.
that put us over the top.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get to work, I didn't know
Very
right
good.
away.
And, yeah, dang it.
Just a big congratulations to the participants in the math league. We'll wait to hear their results soon. And also a big congratulations to the 9 forensics qualifiers for state. It's just awesome. And then a quick public announcement. May 18th, there will be a place for you to get free food and win prizes at our 25th anniversary celebration at Comfort Air. I will remind you one more time at the meeting. So all past, present, and future customers, so that's everybody, is
It's
It's
Saturday.
everybody.
to win prizes.
Village garage sale day too.
Yeah. Well, there's only so many weekends in May
Yeah,
that
that's
are
true,
available.
and it's a busy time.
And so that's the
People
only
will
one
be out
that
about
wasn't
really good.
something other.
Free
So-
food, I remember that.
Right, so
Right.
you can
Price is
shop
right.
all day.
How long do you go till?
We go 8:30 to 3:30.
Do we have to bring our bills or anything? Cause mine just came in the mail today.
Those aren't free, Donna.
But you can
Can
win
you get a
prizes
discount?
Yeah,
worth
enter for
more
bronze.
than what your bill is.
That's right.
Leo.
So thank you, Carrie.
I don't mean to discourage Mr. Hildebrandt's efforts, but if you've driven by his house in the last few days, you'll notice that
Yes, I did
his
notice.
already meager front yard has basically vaporized. And I made that mistake last summer, pouring concrete around my fire pit, and then it stopped raining until October, and the grass seed scattered by the cement crew in an attempt to return to previous conditions, it isn't there. So if you've got a dog, better get a hose in the front entryway. It's gonna be ugly.
Well, that road construction is probably gonna create,
Well, and then that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
I would parrot what everybody else has said, amen to Kathy and Dana and everybody's comments about the support that the referendum received. In today's, what is the local fish wrap called, the City
City Times.
City Times?
City Times.
The feature article on the election pointed out that the village of Port Edwards had the highest participation of any of the major municipalities in Wood County, over 50%, whereas Rapids came in at something shy of a third. So
It's great.
you have to go and vote, folks. And part of why we were successful here is that people did that. I mean, vote for whoever you want, vote for whatever question you like and whichever way you fashion it. But they gotta drag your sorry butt out of the house and go to the polls and cast your ballot. Otherwise, none of this works. I hope to God come August and November, people recognize that. Big thanks to the community and the people in the district who came out and worked and supported this
Door to
is
door.
very important stuff. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
I actually, I was gonna just comment about that is I actually give my employees paid time to go vote. They come back with their I voted sticker.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes it takes all day, huh?
yeah.
Let's push down.
50 years ago, George
Voted
Gallup
yet.
ran a poll which said that the public was overwhelmingly in support of having a national election, like a presidential election every 4 years on a weekend. Do a Saturday, Sunday vote, or make it a national holiday and everybody's off work and everybody goes and votes, so there's no excuse for not doing it. No employer can influence their employees, pro or con on any issue or candidate. We have unfortunately made it very difficult in the last few years. We've been making it harder and harder and harder and harder for people to vote for a variety of reasons, most of which are political. And that's not a good sign for democracy, for anything.
Germany actually, their election day is a national holiday and everything has to be closed.
Yes.
So,
And I was also very happy with the election results. I echo what Dana said about school being the focus of the village. It really is, and shows the amount of support we have in the school district. But on another note, only 61% statewide passed it, so there's some districts that are gonna have to do the tough questions and tough discussions, and so that's another thing where that's not the way we should be funding our schools in Wisconsin, so that's for another election.
Why should we have to do that?
Yeah, we shouldn't
All
be
this
spending
work, all this
the
effort,
referendum.
shouldn't have to.
So,
That's the problem.
Put it into our children.
so that's something for everyone to look at, think about.
And now we're gonna have a community band, so what can be better?
Right. Absolutely.
What do you play, Dan?
I'm so terrible.
She's gonna
I'm
bring the song
French
and
horns.
dance. She played, and I played trombone, I wouldn't have a clue what anymore.
Mr. Morrell didn't even want me, so it's okay.
See if I can find it.
I was so bad.
I was never a fan.
I really
I think we get a
was.
nerve.
I'll come and cheer you all on.
So our next meeting is May 8th.
Hey, yes.
You guys know.
All right, with that, call for adjournment.
So moved.
I was so bad. Did you play them so bad?
Yes, Emily is excited.
Could you play them?
Emily instruments on clearance at a historical in Marshall.
I played piano
Until
through middle school.
So everything we need.
I just play bass guitar.
A couple little neat
No,
things.
yeah, so John.
A purchasing cycle. Instruments, so we did this last week, I said so far.
Jimbo plays all this trombone. Lisa played clarinet.
Your three sprouts.
Oh, that's right. With Amy
Again, it was just like.
Yeah, next week I'll.